Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Boltgun. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to paint a Stormcast Castigator. First colours that we're going to use on the Castigator is Citadel Khorne Red. I'm just going to use this to do the inside of the front tabard. Now we're also going to come back to this colour shortly because we're going to do the end of the projectile on his bow there. We'll be painting that up with Khorne Red as well, so if you want to do that now you can do, or you can do it in a minute when we come back to it. Once you've got that nice smooth layer on there, it's on to the next colour. Now we're going to use Vallejo White. This is going to be for the inside of his cloak. So you want to give that as smooth a layer as possible. Obviously it doesn't really matter too much which white you're using, as long as you're giving that a nice smooth layer. As always, they are great models, these Castigators. Some cool details, some cool poses, and of course the weapons look great too. Now I'm going to use some Rakarth flesh. This is going to be for the tabard at the front, the cloth material up the front of the shoulders and chest, and also the cloth material which goes down from between his shoulder blades at the back and down his back there. You're going to give that a nice smooth layer of Rakarth flesh, which will be the base for the nice creamy colour of the tabard and the cloth. You're not going to be painting the cloak at the bottom because we're going to be doing that blue on the rear, so don't worry about that bit too much now. Now we're going to be using Vallejo Black. That's to do the body of the weapon, the cuffs on his gloves, and a lot of the straps which go around his back and around his waist. There's also a small pouch on his left hip that we're also going to be painting black too. So just give that a nice smooth layer of black. We can go on to the next colour. This particular Castigator is from one of the starter boxes from a while ago, which is why he doesn't have the cool funky bases that you get with the Mortal Realms ones, which is a shame because I do really like those bases. Now I'm going to use Kantor blue, and this is going to be to do his shoulder pads and the back of his cloak. Now find this colour when you paint it onto the gold, which is the base colour. It's Retributor armour to start with. It does streak up a little tiny bit, so if it does streak, just give that another layer, get that nice smooth blue colour. You can see the gold showing through there, so once this bit's finished we're going to be doing another layer just to smooth that over. With the blue completed, we're now moving on to Khorne Red again. This is the bit I mentioned earlier. We're just going to do the end parts for the projectile on his bow. Now we're going to move on to Citadel Retributor armour. We're just going to go over some of the areas where when it's been sprayed it hasn't quite caught all of the armour. Do tend to spray things on the sprue, so certain angles you will miss little bits. So I'm just going to go around and touch up all the Retributor armour that's missing from the miniature. So it's got a nice smooth layer for when we come to do the shades. Now we're going to be using Citadel Leadbelcher. This is to do a lot more of the body and the detailing work on the bow itself. I'm going to use a little bit of Vallejo Modeler Chrome. I'm going to use this to do the beads on the kind of rosary that he's got around his waist. Now, even when washed, I've said before, this colour does keep its shine a lot. So when you're putting your Nuln Oil on in a bit, the shine on the chrome will be a lot more than the shine on the Leadbelcher. See there, a few of the sisters are battling in the background, ready for painting. I'm going to start on the shades. I'm going to start with Agrax Earthshade. We're using this just to do the gold of his armour. I'm going to give that a nice coat so it goes into the recesses and darkens that down. Like so. Give any slight background noises. I've got one cat sat next to me and one cat sat on me. Next colour is Citadel Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to use this to wash all the Rakarth flesh on him. It's all the tabard and the robes on his shoulders and on his chest. And also the little scroll down the side of his leg there. Which, for ease of painting, I'm going to be painting up using the same style as the cloth on his robes. Like so. Next shade that we're going to use is Citadel Nuln Oil. We're going to be using this on all the Modeler Chrome and all the Leadbelcher. On these front parts here where it's got the runes and things drawn on, you want to give that quite a bit of Nuln Oil because that will darken up those runes and make them really stand out. So you want to make sure there's quite a bit in those recesses there. For the rest of it, just give it a normal coating, that's fine. Next up, it's Citadel Druchii Violet. I'm going to use this on the red, so the red section's on the front of the projectile there, and also the rear side of his front tabard. I'm going to be painting that with Druchii Violet too, just to darken that up. You can see the empty penitent engine in the back there, the pilot for that has been painted up. I've just got to edit the video for it, so that'll be coming soon. Next up we have Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade. I'm going to be using this on his shoulder pads and also on the cloak at the back, the blue of the cloak. And make sure you get plenty of this in the recesses to give it a nice dark crease. Now we're going to use Vallejo Pale Grey Wash. This is just to do the white on the inside of his cloak. Now the light does glare this out a little bit. You can see there where someone's gone into the crease next to his leg where there's the shading from the gold. So I'm going to use the brush in a moment to just absorb that and take that out of that crease, because you don't want the sort of the dark of the shade from the gold having that pale grey on top of it. It does look quite awkward and quite wrong. Now I'm going to return to the armour, so we're using Citadel Retributor armour. I'm going to start reapplying the metallic, giving this its shine back. So you want to paint most of the armour, Retributor armour. The only parts that you're not really doing are the recesses and also the underside of the legs. So if there's any bits that are going to be completely in shade, you're only going to do some slight highlights with the Retributor armour. You don't want to be repainting that entirely gold, because there will be some shade in there and some darkness in there. Now I'm going to use Citadel Liberator Gold. I'm going to use this to highlight the Retributor armour. So you want to think about where it's going to be catching the light, and where it's going to be shining most, and you just want to apply it to those areas. So you're going to be leaving some Retributor armour on display. You can see here how much of a shine it adds to the Retributor armour. It really does give that a nice shine as though light is catching it. If you take a little bit of time when you're applying this and think about where the light will probably catch, you can get a really great effect with the gold. Now I'm going to use Vallejo Modeler Chrome mixed with the Liberator Gold, and we're just going to do ever so slight extreme highlights. You want to be thinking about where there's going to be lines of light going down it, where the light's going to catch the edges a lot, and just apply this to there. The chrome adds a lot of light coloured pigment to the Liberator Gold, so it really does make those areas that you paint it stand out a lot and give it a really bright and vibrant shine. See me rotating it when I'm painting this is just checking out where I've put the lines and where the light reflects on it a lot more, and knows what kind of area you're going to be aiming for with it. We're actually using Citadel Liberator Gold here. I failed to show the paint. So if you just return to Citadel Liberator Gold, and we're going to be applying this colour back to the bulk of the metallic body on his bow. Now make sure you don't get it in the recesses where those runes and the patterns are. And keep them as free as possible. If you do manage to get any in, you can just add a little bit more Nuln Oil at a later point. Give that colour. Now I'm going to use some Vallejo Modeler Chrome. I'm going to use this to redo the beads on the kind of rosaries. Add a little bit of a shine to the anvil kind of shape on the end of the rosaries. And also to do some edge highlights on the areas that you've just painted with the Leadbelcher. Now we're going to start working on the cloth. So you return into Citadel Rakarth Flesh. We're just going to start putting the colour back onto this. Now you want to be leaving the Seraphim Sepia in the recesses. Thankfully the Rakarth Flesh is a little bit thinner than most paints, so when you're applying it you should be able to kind of feather that into the shade quite well. Now I've mixed a little bit of Vallejo White with the Citadel Rakarth Flesh. I'm just going to do a highlight onto this area. So you want to be covering about half the area that you've just covered with the Rakarth Flesh with this. Just kind of paint that down until it looks quite natural. We'll keep up with that and return with the next colour. So now we've added a little bit more white to that. We're going to do extreme highlights on these areas. It's mainly going to be the top of all the creases, not too much more than that really, to be honest. And down the edges on the side of the cloth and the tabard. See, if you want to add anywhere, make it look like there's a bit of a ridge, you can use this colour even on flat surfaces just to do a few little creases, a few little lines there, and makes it look like it's catching the light. So working on the rear cloak now and the shoulder pads, we're going to return to Citadel Kantor Blue. You're going to be painting these bits up so that you're leaving the shade in the recesses, and then the bulk of it is just going to be painted with Kantor Blue. The same on the shoulder pads. You want to be leaving the Drakenhof Nightshade around the edge of the shoulder pads, and then where you've got that dip towards the top, it's like a lip at the top there, and then a dip before it, and then the main part of it. You just want to be leaving that dip, so it's just got the Drakenhof Nightshade in there too. You can see the darker area. That just gives it a bit more definition to the shape, so that you can see the shape of the shoulder pad a little bit more. Now we're going to add a little bit of white to the Kantor blue. I'm going to start painting this on and just highlight the raised areas. Now the way I'm painting this, it probably is the opposite way to where the highlight would go if the light was coming from above, to be honest. But it makes the shape of the shoulder pad stand out quite well. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Vallejo Black. We're changing the bits that we're working on here, so we're going to return to the cloak in a minute. At the moment we're just going to go over all the black and make sure that's got a smooth layer on it and there is no streaks that let the gold show through the black. Next we're going to be using Vallejo German Grey. This is going to be to highlight the black. So I'm going to think about where the light's catching it all again. And apply the German Grey to the ridges and making sure that the black is still shown in those recesses there. So mainly just doing the edges on these upright parts on the bow, but the rest of it will be getting a lot more German Grey applied just to break up the black. Now we're going to use some Mechanicus Standard Grey from Citadel. This is mainly just to do edge highlights on the black and the German Grey that we've just done. Now we're going to return to the cloak. We've added a bit of white to the Kantor blue. And we're just going to add this to the ridges and kind of curve them out at the bottom. So the light's catching it in a kind of similar way that it is on the creases, going the same way as the creases and the ridges to make that look like the cloak's kind of sweeping and the light's catching it as it's sweeping. On the thinner ridges you just want to be adding this to the extreme crest of the ridge. And where they're a bit bigger you want to add it a little bit more round so that you can still see the previous layer but you get a nice little highlight there. Now we're going back to Khorne Red now. We're going to paint the end of the projectile at the end of the bow. A couple of pretty short layers here. Just got the 4 side parts, 4 really narrow bits that you're just kind of poking in, and then 4 sections on the front. It's a pretty easy section to paint this. Like so. Next up we're going to be using Citadel Mephiston Red, and we're going to paint a kind of half circle coming from the flat edge at the very front of the projectile so that the half circle goes into the larger area. We're going to do the same on the front as well. So it's a very quick and easy paint job this. You can batch paint it using all the same mixes as well to keep everyone the same. Now we're going to move on to Citadel Wazdakka Red, and all we're going to do is use this to paint the ridge on the projectile. Like so. I'm going to use Khorne Red again, and we're just going to paint the inside of his tabard. When you're doing this, be careful not to get some on the front of the tabard where you've painted the cream colour and done the highlights. If you do, you can just wipe a little bit off with your finger if you're very, very careful, and then just gently go over that with a little bit of the previous highlight. Now I'm going to use Mephiston Red, the same as we've just done for the front of the projectile. I'm just going to paint the areas that are probably highlighted by a little bit of light hitting them. You're not going too far in with that. Like so. Now we're on to Citadel Wazdakka Red. Just going to do a little bit of an edge highlight on the very edge of the tabard. Now we're going for Citadel Khorne Red again. I'm just going to be painting the lines around the cloth. So you want to always try and paint vertically when you're doing straight lines. So you're dragging the tip of the brush downwards. That way the brush doesn't splay and spread the paint out. Now you can see here there are a few little wobbles in there. You get the little wobbly hand syndrome sometimes when you're painting. But once you've painted it, you can go back and just smooth them out with a little bit of Rakarth flesh and white mix that you've previously used, or just knock up a fresh little batch of it just to touch up that red line. Now I'm going to be working on the symbol here. I'm just going to use plain white. This is how I freehand all the symbols. Get a rough cross drawn on there, and then you slowly want to spread that out, getting a rough version of the cross on. Now if you do happen to spread it out just a little bit too much, or go onto the blue, make a bit of a cock up of it, it's not a problem. You can just go back, use some of the previous mixes and just gently touch up the edge of those white lines. And when you've done it, if you notice that one side is slightly wider than the other or slightly thinner than the other, you can just touch them up as you go as well and get that so it's looking good. The final colour we're going to work on is using Vallejo White. We're just going to touch up the cloak. Now the brightness of the lamp has kind of washed this out a little bit. You can kind of see the grey shade, or the grey wash rather, down towards the bottom of his foot there. You're sort of working that so that you've mainly got the white on this part, and inside where you can see the grey shade a lot better. So you're just working the white back up there and leaving the pale grey wash in the recesses. And that is the finished Castigator. Now the great looking miniatures. I think with a quick paint job like that, you can get them looking really great on your tabletop.
Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, think about subscribing to our other social media, link below. Thanks very much.